On June 17, 2015, a Bible study was taking place at Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina. A young white man came in, and he was welcomed by the group, and for an hour listened to the Bible study. At the end of the Bible study, he got up and shot 9 members dead in Mother Emanuel AME Church. His action took place in the face of a parable that was being discussed. It was the parable of the soil, the sower, and the soil, where Jesus talked about a sower sowing seed, and some fell on the pathway, some fell on stony ground, some fell in thorny ground. But then Jesus ends his parable by saying, but some fell on good soil. Dylan Ruth chose to serve the evil purposes of the devil. His choice was a choice against the will of God, which was developing the beloved community. Interestingly enough, something else happened years and years ago, not unrelated to this opportunity. Do you want to promote the work of the devil, or do you want to build a society that's called the beloved community? In 1871, a plantation that had been the location of slavery, brutality, was up for sale. Former slaves and their friends got their monies together and decided, this plantation has more positive opportunities, and we must make sure that it is done. So they got their monies together and purchased that space, which became the Franklinton Center College. And later on it became a community center. It became a place where many, many wonderful things were developed in that community for the sake of justice and for freedom and for opportunity for God's people. We now are at the 150th anniversary of the Franklinton Center College, Franklinton's Christian College, and we have the opportunity to respond to a challenge. During COVID-19, many of the opportunities we had to prepare for the strengthening of the ministries of that place were challenged. But during this 150th anniversary, we want to decide all over again. What used to be a plantation should become a center for education, for nutrition, for health, for food, for things that upbuild community. I hope that we, when we make this choice, will make the good choice, not to destroy, but to create a place of sustained support for the life of a community, for the lifting of the poor, for making possible a place for God's beloved community. May God help us to sustain this great institution so that God will say, now that's what I had in mind. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Deborah D. Brayton, a member of St. Albans Congregational Church, United Church of Christ, located in St. Albans, Queens, New York. And I'm also the first Vice President of the United Black Christians. It gives me great pleasure to talk to you a little bit about the renewing spirit that Franklinton Center FBRICS has had in my life. Our first event that I attended at Franklinton Center was Franklinton Center Day many years ago with my dear friend Brenda James and members of St. Stephen UCC. To me, it was like a big family reunion, meeting people for the first time and renewing acquaintances of people that I've met in my years with United Church of Christ. But also, I've been blessed to return to Franklinton Center for retreats and conferences. And every time that I walk on the grounds of that historic site, my spirit is renewed. I feel closer to God, and it allows me in that tranquil space to reflect on God's goodness and grace in my life. So I invite all of you to support the mission of Franklinton Center. 150 years of mission. Started out as a school and now provides so many services to the people in the counties that surround Franklinton Center. So do your part. I've done my part. I invite you to support this mission of Franklinton Center FBRICS. Thank you, and God bless.
This Christmas, remind us of all your love today. This Christmas, remind us of all your love today. You made us, you've healed us, you brought us through so much. We thank you, our Father, with all we have in praise. This Christmas, remind us of all your love today. This Christmas, remind us of all your love today.
My name is Nia Wilson. I live in Durham, North Carolina, and I am the co-director of Spirit House Incorporated. What do I want to say about bricks? I think the first thing that I want to say about bricks is that it feels like home. And I mean, it feels like home in my bones, in every part of my body. And it has always felt like home from the first time I was there. The land has a very ancestral spirit. You can tell that the ancestors are there, that they're grateful that we are there, that they're welcoming to us, that they're grateful for the work that's happening there and the care that the staff gives to the land. The trees speak to me, as crazy as that may sound. It was a space that I understood for the first time that trees hold memory, that the trees hold our stories, and that they are standing tall, taking on that responsibility of carrying the memory of our ancestors in that sacred space, that it's not too much for them to hold, that they are holding and have held a lot. And I have nothing but gratitude to the trees, to the land. Oftentimes when I came to bricks, it would be around the time that the cotton season. And so even going out into the field and again being able to feel the history and take some cotton home, to be prayerful, to be mindful, makes it a special and a sacred place. And it also wouldn't be that without the staff who understands that it's a sacred place, without the family who does the work to make sure that each room is clean and is warm and has everything that you need, and that when it's time to eat, the meals are home cooked meals. They're made with love. One of the times that I was at Bricks recently, it was not long after my dad had passed away, and we were there, and my son was there also. And although the staff in the kitchen didn't necessarily know everything that was happening with me, they pulled my son to the side and told him to make sure that he took care of his mama. They told him that he was a good man, and they told him to take care of his mama. That's a Black woman thing, and we need that. And so that's what I mean when I say it feels like home. It feels like coming home every single time, and every person who is there that is living makes it feel like home, and every ancestor that is there makes it feel like home. What do I want for bricks? I want another 150 years for bricks. I want abundance for bricks. I want people to understand that it is sacred land, it is a sacred space, and that it deserves to be tended and cared to. So what I don't want is for there to be a lack of resources. I want people of North Carolina to embrace, I want people all over, but especially people of North Carolina to embrace the space for the sacredness for what it is, to make sure that the staff has everything that they need, because they have committed to doing sacred work for all of us. And they deserve to be cared for, tended to, loved up on, and thanked for what they've done, for what they're carrying, and for what they will pass on lovingly pass on. Ms. Vivian has been a gift. It's clear that she loves that space, and that as she moves on, that the folks that are there love the space equally. Ellie is amazing and will also love the space equally, has and will continue to. So I want Bricks to continue, and I want Bricks to have abundance. I want Bricks to have all the resources it needs to fix up the buildings that need to be fixed up, to create more spaces that need to be created, to fix up the school. That building holds another energy that too is calling for people to be able to come and feel and spend time and understand what our people did. And yeah, I want that.
If you'd like to contribute to our 150 YKD campaign, you can go to our website at Franklinton Center at Bricks and select Give, and you will be directed on how to make an online contribution. You can also send a check to Franklinton Center at Bricks, Inc. at P.O. Box 220, Whitakers, North Carolina, 27891. And thank you for your support.
I am a witness.
Yes, I am a witness.
Yes, I am a witness to Franklinton Center at Bricks.
I am a witness.
Am a witness. I am a witness. I am.
I am a witness. I am a witness to the holiness. I am a witness to the history. I am a witness to the hospitality that is Franklinton Center at Bricks. I am a witness to the power of the Holy Spirit enter into my soul since the very first time I stepped onto this sacred ground, almost 30 years ago. It didn't happen just then. It happens every time I come back home to visit. A sense of soul strength enters my being every single time. I am a witness to the rich history of this holy ground, made holy by the presence of the ancestors who occupied this plantation over 100 years ago. In the last 30 years, I have studied and learned more about the pain and the suffering, and more about the resilience and renewal of former slaves who were students, landowners, and community members. I bring forth the name of Miss Princella Garrett, whose name was not recorded in the U.S. Census until 1890, when she was in her elder years. I am a witness to the hospitality that is embodied at Franklinton Center at Bricks. When a descendant of the plantation owners, the Garretts, came to the center, he was welcomed with open arms. When staff says welcome home, they mean it. I'm honored to be welcomed as one of the family, and no matter how near or far away I am, I will always cherish that blessing. Yes, I am a witness.
I am a witness to the importance of the impact that Franklinton Center has made on building and nurturing a sense of belonging and community for the success of our children, our future generation, and our current generations of children. I'm a witness.
I've spent many days working there at Franklin Center. In fact, when I was the head of the United Church of Christ Commission for Racial Justice, we moved our Raleigh office to Franklin Center because I wanted to make sure that we sustained the property. It's a beautiful campus. The bricks at some of the buildings at Franklin Center were handmade by some of the former students, some of the former residents of the community. It's an agricultural community, it's a rural community, but it's vibrant in terms of the history, particularly of the Afro-Christian tradition in the United Church of Christ. Franklin Center has been a place for advocacy, for theological reflection, for the edification of what it means to engage in social justice. You know, I think that if there was one institution in the whole of the United Church of Christ that practices and embodies our statement of faith, it is Franklin Center.
My experience with the Franklinton Center is personal. I've lived in the region for some 4 decades, and I'm intimately familiar with the disparities and the challenges that the most vulnerable Black and brown families in our region face. And of course, those challenges include food shortages. They include having the poorest health outcomes in the state among low-income families. They include persistent underemployment and lack of employment and lack of access to high-speed internet. So true to the center's great legacy and heritage, and even understanding the resilience the center has demonstrated in the harshest of times, Franklinton Center today, to me, means continuing to strive and live up to that great legacy, and continuing to prepare individuals and congregations and community leaders to advance programs of social, racial, and economic justice.
I talked about that sense of belonging and community, and really a sense of safety. That's so important to our children today. The educators refer to it as social emotional learning. We know that if children don't feel safe, if they don't feel like they belong or they're part of a community, then the learning is not going to be as successful and effective as it should be. So what I learned at Franklinton Center, this sense of belonging and the importance of community, I take that off the grounds of Franklinton Center, if you will, and apply it to my Freedom Schools program, because we need to take these great feelings that we have when we hit the grounds of Franklinton Center and apply them to the world that we live in, the wounded, the dying world that we live in. So that informs the work that I do as executive director of the Freedom School program. We take children, 50 children every year over a 6-week period, 5 days a week, 7 hours a day. And we teach them, we model for them our culture, our beliefs, what we believe, and then we set high expectations for them. We give them a voice and we say, take your voice and then go out into the world and make an impact. And so that's how the National Freedom Schools program and the work I do there has been impacted by my experiences at Franklinton Center.
The late Purcell Austin. Purcell was, the director, of the Convention of Christian Education Director or Minister for the Convention of the South. And he would officiate at the services, the communion service. And so one occasion, when I was 15, I went up, you had to go up, you had to kneel and so forth. I went up and knelt. And Purcell said, Henry, just in case you think that you've gotten away this week, now's the time for you to repent. And at that moment, I had a sense that the Lord was calling me. And it's amazing, 2 years later, it was Purcell who was working with, ministering with the United Church Board for Homeland Ministries, who, unbeknownst to me, supplied an $800 scholarship for me to go to undergrad school. And that was a lifesaver.
My mom always had these dichos in Spanish. And one of the things she always said to us is, no se sabe a dónde vas sin saber de dónde vienes. Translated, it means you do not know where you're going unless you know where you've been. That is the way I would describe it. the storytelling, the history, the museum, all of that is an opening and opportunity for us not to only connect with the ancestors, but to really pay it forward, if you will, for the next generation and the generation who follows them. The power of that is again, the strength and the soul of Franklinton Center.
As a member of the Council of Elders of Franklinton Center, I am so pleased to be a witness. And it's been so important to witness in these days that we've been moving through. This has been one of the most unusual times in my history, and I'm into my 80s. But to have to move through what we've been moving through with the amount of deaths and illness and suffering and injustices all coming together that has caused us to have to quarantine and go into isolation, this has been an unbelievable time. And it's a time in which we've had to ask ourselves the question, what really matters? For me, it's always been three things. When I'm going through a tough time, it's family, it's my faith, and it's hope. And place for me that reveals this as much as any other place is Franklinton Center. It has always been for me a place of faith, a place of family, and a place of hope. And in it is a story of a people who found a way to survive in the midst of the most difficult times that we can imagine. I'm able to have hope now because I can connect to those mamas and fathers who came right up out of slavery over 100 years ago and invested everything they had into creating institutions that would live on long after them. They founded churches, and many of those churches still exist today. They founded a school, and many of the folk who attended those schools were able to offer their skills to help the community around them and to keep all of us pressing on. And even in the midst of all, they were able to keep a connection to Africa and to the Caribbean in support systems. In the midst of everything, they invested all that they had in order that we could not only survive, but keep pressing on. They give us an example of moving through one pandemic after another. I think about the fact that in the 30s, when we were in a depression, that it was on these sacred grounds that the idea kept emerging for a rural life school where farmers in the area didn't have to be sharecroppers who was working for somebody else, but could be owners of the land and invest their own resources and building in that particular faith place and for that community. In the midst of hard times, we kept pressing on. And I can imagine that in the midst of those moments when we were struggling hard with segregation and separatism and fighting, Franklinton Center became home. It was home for all of those men and women who were organizing and strategizing for justice. It was home for all of us who were preparing ourselves for ministries in the church. It was that place that we could draw strength from for the vocation that we were being called to. And now in this pandemic, when we're going through, it's now a place of faith, family, and it's a place of hope. Franklinton Center today has become a central place for community. We got Wi-Fi, and Wi-Fi is so important to the men and women who now have to depend on, and all of the folk in the community that have to depend on technology in order to connect. So with broadband, they can come up on our grounds and be able to talk to their doctors, or to be able to worship, or even to be able to help their kids go to school. But in addition to that, we're in partnership with the school system so that we can offer food from our land at this particular time. Franklinton Center has been a place for centuries that has offered hope, that has offered family, and has offered faith that became the anchors for us to keep pressing on in difficult times. And so I'm pleased to be a witness. I started out there when I was just 7 years of age, and it has been a major impact on my life ever since. And so I join my witness along with all of the other voices that you will hear today. This is sacred ground. This is historical ground. This is community ground. And this is liberation ground, where we continue drawing strength from those who have come after us, before us, and for those who are struggling now, and building for those who will come after us, a place where there always will be faith and family and hope. So my hope is that for those of you who have an opportunity to see this video, that you will join us, that you will be a part of the circle of persons who will offer testimony to Franklinton Center. Testimony in the following ways. I'm hoping that you'll be able to come on these grounds and draw strength from it when the virus is no longer a part of us. I'm hoping that you will use it for events in your life. Churches will come to be on these sacred grounds. Families will come and hold reunions, that we will come and just connect to the spirit and the soil of so many who have come before us. And of course, we hope you will join us financially. I'm a witness. My hope is that you will be a witness too.
A sacred space filled with a rich treasure trove of history, sacred stories, stories of community, stories that chronicle the experiences of African Americans from slavery until today. I have witnessed in the archives that are not just in Franklinton Center, but in repositories around the country, stories of early Christians, men and women of faith, who came together and gave the best of what they had to build a community, to empower people, to nourish young children, to inspire hope. And there at Franklinton Center, we have a walking space that is available to today's generations and future generations to explore a story of a powerful heritage of faith, not just of African Americans, but faith of Native people, faith of European Americans, people of various ethnic diversities who came together inspired by a deep commitment to love, empowerment, and hope. I'm a witness to Franklinton Center as a place of transformation, a place of healing, restoration, renewal, a place where one could go and explore their own personal histories, their family stories. There at Franklinton Center, you can walk the grounds where an original plantation was there, and you can trace the descendants from that time up until today. I'm a witness to Franklinton Center as an international site of transformation, of hope, an international site that tells the story of a people who never gave up. I'm a witness to the power of a future that Franklinton Center has, based on a rich legacy that was bequeathed from ancestors who worked and gave their best to build something better for all of us. I'm a witness. Yes, I'm a witness. I'm a witness for the Lord. And there at Franklinton Center, you can see the power of God that moved from slavery in North America until today. I am a witness indeed. Yes, I'm a witness. I'm a witness. And you ought to be a witness too. Amen.
You can get a witness from me anytime when it comes to Franklinton Center. And today we're asking you to be a witness too. It is so important that you understand that when the board of Franklinton Center adopted its new logo, which is the Sankofa, it really meant that we want to look back, but we are moving forward. That mythical bird with the egg in its mouth, with the newness of life. And so we're asking you to support the Franklinton Center at Bricks, not only because of its past and not only because of its future, but of its present, but because of its future. Franklinton Center at Bricks is doing wonderful and amazing things in its community. It is a social justice conference and retreat center. It's a center, though, that is rooted and grounded in a local community. As a former plantation, it has transformed now into an amazing community partner. We work in our local community with other nonprofits, with schools, the local municipalities, and we're working to make a difference in the lives of the people who live around us. Through your support, you will be literally feeding thousands of people through our 6-acre garden and orchard in which we grow tons of vegetables and fruits. We feed people right where they are. Not only that, we have a recently initiated broadband system that we're opening up to the local community. We're working with our schools to provide virtual learning, to support virtual learning on our campus where we hold an internet cafe. We're also working with local schools to build social justice champions in the schools through new courses such as civic engagement and social activism. We're asking you to engage with us, to support, to literally pour into the lives of men and women who are making a difference not only in their local community, but around the world.